My name is Clara Voss, and for the first time in my life, everything was working exactly the way I built it to. That should have been the calm part of the story. It wasn't. Because success doesn't just attract opportunity, it attracts attention. And sometimes attention comes from the past you thought you had already buried. The first sign came quietly. Too quietly. A shipment rejection. Hartwell's flagship property in Savannah flagged an entire delivery of Greystone sourdough as inconsistent quality. That had never happened before. Not once. I drove down myself. When I arrived, the executive chef met me in the kitchen with a look I didn't recognize. Not disappointment. Doubt. He sliced into one of the loaves and held it up. The crumb was wrong. Dense. Uneven. Lifeless. Not mine. Not even close. I don't understand, I said. And I meant it. Because Greystone bread didn't fail like that. It couldn't. Not with my process. Not with my standards. Not with Priya watching every batch like a hawk. The chef folded his arms. We've had 3 shipments like this week. 3. My stomach dropped. Because that meant this wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. I didn't sleep that night. I drove back to Asheville at 2 a.m. Replaying every possibility. Equipment failure. Ingredient contamination. Human error. But none of it fit. By sunrise, I was in the bakery. Priya was already there. Of course she was. She always was. You saw the reports? She asked. I nodded. Her voice dropped. There's something else. She handed me a printed invoice. At the top, in clean, corporate font. Supplier. Voss Catering Group. My fingers went cold. They're supplying Hartwell, Priya said quietly. No, I replied automatically. That contract is exclusive. Priya shook her head. Not if they're not labeling it as Greystone. I stared at the page, and suddenly everything made sense. The bad bread. The inconsistent batches. The erosion of trust. This wasn't competition. This was sabotage. I called Geraldine. Immediately. She picked up on the second ring. Clara, she said, voice tight. I was just about to call you. I already know, I said. Silence. Then, we've been receiving alternate shipments, she admitted. Emergency supply, they said. When your volume couldn't meet demand. My jaw tightened. I never missed a delivery. I know that now. Now. Not before. They used your name carefully, Geraldine continued. Not directly. But enough to create confusion. Armiza. Of course they did. Because Margaret Voss didn't make reckless moves. She made strategic ones. Calculated. Precise. Just like she taught Diana. I hung up. And for a moment, I just stood there. In the bakery I built. Surrounded by the smell of real bread. Real work. Real proof. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger. Not exactly. Clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. Because this wasn't about bread. It never was. It was about control. And my mother wasn't trying to destroy my business. She was trying to reclaim it. That afternoon, I drove to Charleston. No announcement. No warning. The Voss Catering headquarters hadn't changed. Same glass doors. Same polished floors. Same feeling of walking into a place that had rules long before you arrived. Diana met me in the lobby. She looked older. Not physically, but in the eyes. Like someone carrying weight they never chose. You shouldn't be here, she said. I didn't come for permission. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Mom's upstairs. Margaret Voss was exactly where she had always been. At the head of a long table, reviewing numbers, commanding space. She didn't look surprised to see me. Of course she didn't. She never did. You're early, she said. I didn't schedule this, I replied. She closed her folder, finally looked up. You came anyway. Yes. A pause. Then she gestured to the chair across from her. I didn't sit. You're supplying Hartwell, I said. She didn't deny it. They needed consistency, she replied calmly. You couldn't meet scale. That's not true. It's not proven otherwise. There it was. The same tone. The same strategy. Rewrite reality until it favors you. You're using my name, I said. I'm using market positioning. You're damaging my brand. She leaned back. You don't have a brand without scale. And I don't need scale without integrity. Her eyes sharpened. For the first time, there it was. Emotion. Small. Controlled. But real. You're thinking like an artist, she said. I built an empire thinking like an operator. And you're losing it, I replied. Silence hit the room like a dropped plate. Diana inhaled sharply behind me. Margaret didn't flinch. But something shifted. Barely. Why are you really here, Clara? She asked. And this time, I answered honestly. Because you crossed a line. She tilted her head. You walked away from this family. I walked towards something you couldn't control. And now it's affecting me. No, I said quietly. You chose to interfere. Another pause. Longer this time. Then Margaret stood. Slowly. Carefully. Like every movement had weight. You think this is personal, she said. It is. It's business. And hesitated. It stopped being business when you tried to replace me. Her voice rose slightly. Then prove you can't be replaced. That was the moment. The pivot. The point where everything could go one of two ways. Fight her. Or outgrow her. I chose the second. I already have, I said. And for the first time in my life, I saw uncertainty in my mother's eyes. I walked out. No dramatic exit. No slammed doors. Just finished. 2 weeks later, I made my move. Not emotionally. Strategically. I called Geraldine. I want full transparency with Hartwell, I said. Every shipment. Every source. You'll have it. Then I did something my mother never expected. I went public. Not with accusations. Not with drama. With truth. I released a full behind-the-scenes documentary of Greystone. The process. The science. The people. Priya. The team. The early mornings. The failures. The precision. Every detail. Unfiltered. Unpolished. Real. People noticed. Not just customers. Industry leaders. Chefs. Hospitality groups. They saw the difference. Not just in the bread. In the philosophy. And suddenly, the conversation shifted. 3 months later, Hartwell expanded the contract. Not just exclusive supply. Brand partnership. Greystone became part of their identity. Not a supplier. A standard. And Voss Catering? They lost the account. Quietly. No headlines. No announcements. Just gone. I didn't call my mother. She didn't call me. We didn't need to. Because this time, the result spoke for itself. 6 months later, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. No signature. Just one line. You built something they cannot take. Elsa's words. Not rewritten. Not reframed. Exactly as they were. I sat at my drafting table. Looked at the jar of starter. Still alive. Still growing. Still Mina. And I smiled. Because now, I finally understood something even deeper. It was never about proving her wrong. It was about proving myself right. If you made it this far, you already know this wasn't just a story about bread. It's about choosing your own path even when it costs you everything at the start. So tell me this. If you were in my position, would you have gone back to your family business? Or built your own from nothing? Comment 1 if you would choose your own path. And if you want more stories like this real, raw, and a little uncomfortable, don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes, the life they told you not to build is exactly the one worth fighting for.